Bing bang boom. Yo, what's up? It's RJ. This is Gut Instincts Podcast. You clicked it. You decided to listen to my voice, to my show. Here it is. Gut Instincts Podcast. Welcome. Hey, thanks for chilling. Just getting my microphone as usual set. Yo, what is up, you guys? How have you been? I've been pretty great. I've been doing lots of house renovations, that sort of shit. I've been getting into, I don't know, man, just all sorts of sort of refabricating old stuff. It's just been fun, right? I've just been trying to keep busy because with the winter here in New England, man, we get snowed in. And I'm not talking about Edward Snowden. I'm talking about snowed inside the house, usually, and it gets kind of boring. So you end up trying to figure out what you want to do. On the flip side, though, I mean, I've been getting into plenty of things, as you already probably know. The book is going to be released next month. Yes, right now. So if you're listening to this, it could be the future. It could be the past. I think that's how it works. Or maybe just the future and the now, I guess. But really, nobody's listening to it now because it's a recording. So, yeah, whatever. Book is going to be released in April. It's going to be 4/20. So, I hope you're stoked for that. I'm stoked for you to read it. And let me know what you think about it, because I don't know, man. I've been working on it for a few years, and it's pretty compelling. And it's called Adam and Eve, Origins of Human Consciousness. So it's sort of this concept or idea, which is not a new idea, but we're just sort of revisiting the idea that the masculine and feminine energies reside within us, and they sort of reflect that of the left and right hemisphere of the brain, meaning the side of logic versus the side of creativity. And of course, we are a manifest of either or physically, right? Masculine or feminine, male or female, XX or XY. That's a very real, scientifically proven thing. If anyone is still listening to the propaganda that's being pushed, this goes to this idea that there's seriously divine gods and goddesses within each of us. And we create our own realities by our energies. And, in the tale of Adam and Eve, just like the tale of many, just different ancient stories that our ancestors have passed on, are really sort of parables and riddles and just concepts, in a sense, that the way they're written they have to be digested centuries from now. So if we think about that for a minute, I hope you packed your bowl or you rolled one up. This episode, we're going to talk about my game plan was to talk about what I'm eating now, I guess, and why, and why the food that you eat directly impacts your environment, right? So the choices that you make. So we'll just get into that, and some are more obvious than others, but real simple ones I just want to touch base on. So yeah, so till then, get your joint, get your bong, bowl, whatever. If you don't, just enjoy the wonderful sounds and know that every second there are hundreds of people lighting that bowl up for you and with you. And don't forget to question everything. Yep. Got my head wick. There you go, folks. We're in. It started. It's officially started. Gun Six Podcast. As soon as you hit that first, you get that first hit, the show has begun. So yeah, I was just talking about how the book and about consciousness and about how these two divine energies. I mean, three if you want to count like the soul and the spirit, which is different. The soul is different than the spirit, different than the self, different than true self. There's ego. Yeah, it's just really interesting stuff. And just to touch base on sort of what I was about to say before we took our first hit was basically like, if you're trying to tell a story, right? You're trying to tell a story, or you want to tell a story. You're like, okay, I want to write down a story, and I want people hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years from now, I want them to be able to understand it, right? So how are you going to write it? Well, you're probably not going to write it in a computer document, right? Because you don't know if they're going to be able to have something to read it, right? Right now, it's almost borderline impossible for me to find a computer that takes a 3.5-inch floppy disk. I don't know if any of y'all younger ones know like what the floppy disk game was all about, but that's what my generation was about. It was about floppy disks and flip phones, but flip phones went into like sidekicks as I gotten like old enough to sort of conversate. Probably early teens, I guess that would have been, right? Because early 90s was when phones started to become really accessible. I think they had some in the late 80s, but I think that was more like car phones and things of that nature. Early to mid 90s was when there was flip phones that were relatively available to the consumer at a pretty good rate. So I don't even know how we got into cell phones. Oh, yeah, I was talking about the generational gap, I guess. Well, yeah. So, about reading floppy disks. Yeah, same thing. CDs, you know what I mean? There are things that don't even take CDs anymore. And it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? And now you need a USB. Oh, now it's just, that's why it's very risky getting everything on digitally, because it's like you've got without a reader, you've got nothing. If you've got, you know what I mean? You have to have something that decodes the code. If you have a code, because that's all we're looking at, right? We're looking at ones and zeros that have been put in a language. That's what code is, the language. CSS plus, Python, HTML, CS, CSS, whatever. Like all those, right? Those are just languages that read the written code that's put into the program, right? So it deciphers it, and then it creates images. So that's what's so interesting about the hieroglyphs, or ancient hieroglyphs. That ancient texts are usually found right on like stones, because what, stones last forever, right? Unless they erode, which takes a lot, right, for stones to erode. So you wonder if that knowledge was sort of present throughout history. And I mean, I'm not talking like 2,000 years, right? You figure Bible is 2,000 years, and then you got pre-Bible, BC, right? 1,000 BC, 2,000 BC, right? Scientists say we're 250-ish thousand, the human Homo sapien, right? Which is supposedly what we are. 250K. That's what they say. So that's 250,000. I mean, they're finding super old, ancient artifacts, I guess, that are proving that the 250,000 year marker is just, it's fabricated, like most historical things that are being fed. So you have to be very diligent about what you digest, right, as a human. And as we've got this whole internet black box in front of us, it's literally just a black screen with your energy and the energy that's coming from the wall, which is the power grid, giving you the ability to see. It's quite fucking amazing, right? It's truly, some will even say it's alien, but again, it's like when you say alien, you just mean not of this earth. And I mean, humans technically are not of this earth, human beings. There's not many things that are of this earth, to be honest. A lot came here. It's Earth School. It's an Earth realm. Oh, if any of y'all didn't check it out, you should definitely check it out. I'll be honest, I pretty much don't really watch Joe Rogan anymore. It's just gone too far. It's too far gone, right? So I'm really focusing on specific people to watch, and Alex Jones is one of the people to watch. So for sure, check out that newest episode. And of course, they should not be censoring, right? They shouldn't be censoring any channels that are opening the doors to topics that otherwise wouldn't be talked about, right? Because people want to stay asleep. It's nice to be asleep. We got to realize that's what this whole thing is. It's like, it's comfy, it's comfortable to be asleep. And if you keep things in plain sight and you follow the universal chromatic rules, which that's what these people have been doing, spiritually manipulating the human consciousness, slowing down its progression, although it's a wave that goes up and down and up and down. There's some sort of manipulation going on, and that's just something that you are gonna have to find out in your journey, because everyone's on their own, right? And I sometimes forget how long ago I started to look at the world sort of without those shades. If you haven't watched They Live yet, go watch They Live. I highly recommend it. It was Rowdy Piper, who's he's an old wrestler. If you're into wrestling, WWF, the good old days. Yeah, he featured in this film called They Live, and it's all about how it's pretty much a documentary. He even tweeted, I guess it's a documentary, and not long after he tweeted that They Live was a documentary, he suicided himself. which you know what that means. It's quite obvious, when there's foul play. So I think this stuff is called Trainwreck, but I keep forgetting the name. Yeah, I think that's it. Ice. It's got a like earthy and piney and sort of sweet in a way, right? My favorite are the earthy, sort of piney, skunky ones. Yeah. Heavy indicas usually. Heavy indicas seem to be the strongest for me, at least for what I need, right? Which is like pain relief, hunger. I mean, you can say hunger relief, but hunger enhancement, right? To get hungry, trigger the taste buds. Pain relief. Did I say that? That's a huge one. Of course, anxiety, depression relief, mood uplifting, energizing, or calming. That's the most beautiful thing about this plant is indica versus sativa is going to give you a completely different effect. And I mean, we're going off topic, but you know how we roll on Gut Instinct Podcast. We don't cut corners when we talk about cannabis because cannabis is medicine. And I will say that while I'm laying in bed, letting somebody else roll my fat joints. Well, no, I'll be old and still rolling my fat joints. But if I'm like, if I can't anymore, at that point, have a nurse rolling for me. But yeah, it's medicine and it's so complex. And of course, it's food and it's fuel. I was just thinking to myself, looking at the empty bag of hemp seeds, 2 pounds, my friends, 2 pounds. I think I got that a month ago, maybe 2. Like, let's just say a month and a half. So let's just say 2. So a pound of hemp seeds a month. That's nice, 4 ounces a week. Plant protein is kick-ass, right? I love it. But here's why I'm not vegan, or vegetarian for that matter. I've been researching the blood diet. Now, I understand there's ups and downs and lefts and rights to diets, right? And I don't even think anybody should follow one, which is why I tested some of them actually a little bit yesterday, right? And I'll tell you what happened. Now, all proteins are not created equal, right? All sugars are not created equal, all carbs are not created equal. All sugars and carbs, remember people, sugar is a carb. Or should I say, carbs are a sugar. That's more like it. It's not the other way around. It's carbs are a sugar. So when they create the new breakdown, which I think they already come out with a new one that breaks it down a little bit more clear like that. I think sugars, yeah, I'm pretty sure I think it might be what it is. Carbohydrates underneath sugars. Because that's the reality. It's just the structure, right? The structure is completely different. So if we already acknowledge that there's a different structure, like all sugars can't be created equal, then we need to acknowledge that all proteins can't be created equal. And that literally right there is why, until that is acknowledged, I don't really get into debates about what's better. I don't really promote a certain way of living, and I don't think anyone should be promoting a specific way of living, because we all, I think, should figure out exactly how the best way of living is for our bodies and our environments outside, right? So, when we finally sit back and we say, okay, I'm going to stop thinking that one is better than the other and start saying, well, everybody's body's different, so everybody's going to process it differently, right? To me, when I began to see that, I started to look at blood types being the only consistent factor within all of this, like within the whole spectrum of human body and anatomical, you know, um, I don't know, body makeup, right? I don't know what word I'm looking for. Blood type is the only thing that there's 4 of, unless you're talking Rh negative, that's 5. And I'm not sure if there's Rh. Like if you can't, like you can't really add, but when you look more into it, the negative positive thing, it's not really a huge dividing factor to be claiming it being really different, right? So you have your O, which is your oldest, the oldest found and most frequently found blood type amongst humans, and then you have A, and then you have B, and then you have AB, right? So that's 4. And if you're not into, you're not a phlebotomist or you're not into blood, then you probably don't know what the makeup is, right? You don't know what blood plasma is. And that's fine, right? We're just throwing around words. We don't need to know. But what we should know is that, the basic donor concept of blood is O can give to any, but only take O. A can only give, A and B can only give to A and B, right? And AB, I guess, can give to A, I think. No. Well, anyways, let's move past it, and I'll I'll find out. Okay. So when we look at what happens when gut debris or plaque or whatever you know what I mean, whatever the gunk that's in your body starts to penetrate the gut lining, right? Because you have damaged microvilli from whatever. You can say, we're bringing up last week's topic, which is great, gut permeability and autoimmune disorders, and really any gut gastrointestinal disorder. I mean, I'll make the claim that a lot of issues, even if they're labeled something different, are stemming from these gut problems, like this permeability that's happening in the gut. And when we look at what's happening, we see that these microscopic toxins, whatever they may be, okay, could be glyphosate, could be, any other spray that's on the food that gets absorbed within the GMO, when you're talking about plasmids being injected into the genetic makeup of plants, being broken down on a molecular level, and then being introduced into our bloodstream. So when we when we sit there and we realize, okay, the gut is clearly damaged because of something that I can't eat. Okay, so the body should be telling you if you can't eat it, plain and simple, right? Something should be happening. In my example, it sweats at night, right? It's weird. It would come and go randomly, and I haven't had it for a few days, and it's always quite nice when you don't have it. And I couldn't figure out what to attribute it to, other than fluctuating weather. But then I decided, I haven't been doing dairy because the blood O doesn't fare well with any lactose or any dairy, I guess, in general, because of it being an ancient or an older blood type. It thrives on meat mostly, right? It does not fare well with carbs, bread type, long chain carbohydrates, which is polysaccharide, right? Sugars, or I don't know if it's a polysaccharide carbohydrate. I know they call them sugars. Anyways, dairy is a big no-no, right? Because that's more of, I think, B and AB later on when humans, or when the other humans, or a different area of humans. I'm not really exactly sure. I mean, I guess the actual blood type diet would kind of follow the concept of evolution, which sort of contradicts the idea that humans didn't evolve. And I guess evolution on a small scale versus what's sort of been preached would be different, right? Because you figure you can see progression over 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, 200 years, right? You can observe it. If you take note of it. And it's like, well, what progression can you see within humans? We can already see it within the cell phones, and that was 30 years. You can see it throughout all cultures. And then you can see how it doesn't affect certain cultures, or how certain environmental factors of social and economic ways of living affect other people's way of living completely different. See how complex and sort of like a web it all is? It's really because the now moment is what actually matters. And not having our history is the other thing that matters, or that, I guess, that affects us most. Okay, I'm getting off track. But basically the revelation of sort of, okay, if there's a food that affects my blood type, let's not eat it. So I had a little bit of really, I mean, it was organic, and it was cultured cottage cheese, and I ate just a little bit, and I had like my legs sweat, which is crazy, right? I'll have like nothing else sweat but just my legs. And then I know because I wake up and like my legs are wet. Like, what's going on? So, and it's not like terrible, it's just really uncomfortable. So, and I know this, and I ate such little, so I figured it had to be. So I'm not gonna eat it for the next like or for a while. I'm not gonna eat any dairy. That was literally the only dairy I've had. I was only eating the yogurt anyways, just the yogurt and cottage cheese as far as dairy. But that's it. It could be certain things that are triggering you that you don't even know. You think it's fine. Like I thought cottage, the fermented, anything fermented really I'm into. But hey, if the dairy just affects me, and especially if there's any permeability or like any part in my gut that's sort of having issues, that's going to show itself, right? So what were we getting at? No more yogurt for me, basically. I moved to coconut yogurt, and I'm gonna give it a shot, see if I can actually make it. It's tough. It's tough making it, like, making it thick. That's why they put all those thickeners and stuff. But hey, if you don't overindulge, you're okay. That's what I say. All in light moderation. So yeah, back to the concept that all proteins are not created equal. Once we sit down and we say, okay, I believe that, then we can say, okay, plant protein is not the same as meat protein, which I can feel completely, because I can eat a vegetarian meal. It's great, everything's awesome, and I get a full belly for hours. Personally, I end up bloating if it's a little bit too much carb, and depending on what it is. And it just, things don't work out. Things come out even on the other end just like not the greatest, right? And then at the end of the night, I'm usually starving because like I get this sugar rush or this like energy for like not very long, and then boom, and then that's it, and then it's like crash, and then hungry, starving. And this was after probably about 6 months of being vegan. Vegetarian is a lot easier. I can definitely promote that if you're into that. Lots and lots of fish. I mean, if you can eat like rice and pasta and wheat and all that, dude, there's no reason why you can't just eat fish and shellfish and yeah, like vegetarian's cool, or even pests. Is it pet? No. But anyways, you can eat like bugs and stuff, right? Oh man, you guys, I almost started a cricket fried dehydrated cricket company a few years back, but it didn't work out. So if anyone's interested, just send me all your crickets. No, I'm just kidding. Don't send me crickets. I don't want the crickets. Yo, when we got the crickets delivered to our, we wrote the concept down, and it was like trying to come up with recipes and everything. But when we got the crickets shipped to the apartment, we were in like San Diego, one of those classic San Diego apartments. Like a buddy and I, and oh, it was great. The guy delivered it was laughing, but he said it definitely wasn't the weirdest thing he's ever seen. Good source of protein. That's also, again, is different protein. So when I eat meat, and again, I'm talking as like someone who has Crohn's, who's gone through a lot, different, started my journey on the low carb and found the most success on like the paleo low carb. So that's where I went back after experiencing vegetarian to vegan. So, being just embracing and loving meat is just like, oh man, it's crazy. It took a little while because I ended up getting to the point where I didn't even want to work with meat much. And that was the weirdest feeling. And, when you love nature and you just sort of like, I'm not talking about like I want to go run in a cave and like hug fucking bears and sit around a teepee. Like I believe in I believe in our advancements of technology are kick ass, and we can live a crazy abundant life, and everybody can be pretty kick ass. I know there's bad seeds everywhere, but that's, you know what I mean. That's like a whole different subject. But there's been the suppression. There's been a huge suppression that people don't realize. It's like an illusion of suppression. That once the suppression is lifted, like we can prevail, and it can be crazy awesome and fun. And so yeah, I had to get this appreciation again to work with meat and sort of love it, because when you look at it, it's like that's you. Your cells are being built by this wonderful piece of meat, and it came from a beautiful animal who lived a happy, loving life. And it's like that animal's not you. It doesn't have 90 years to live, right? And it's like I don't want to bring up again. It's like hunters will say this too. It's like they understand that these animals live a very short life, and a lot of the times it can be really dreadful. And I don't mean to laugh. Like it can be rough. Towards the end or whatever, or they can get picked up by a coyote. That can't be. Yeah, and I'm not saying that nature is just savage and everyone's dying, because that again is an illusion. But it can happen, and like if there's humans that thrive off meats, then that's the niche or niche that they fill, right? Same thing if there's groups of humans that thrive off veggies, that's what that needs to be filled, right? And I keep thinking about the finches on the islands, about the Darwin, about the whole like how they proven evolution, but again, it's like it's a theory, but it's proven on a small scale. It's like the progression of evolution could also be seen as the change, right, within environment and ecosystem. So which is like the same thing, I guess. Whatever, yo. After you get to the end of the bowl, that's why I only take one hit. One hit. Wait, one hit. So that way, by the end, we're all baked, and we got a head full of knowledge. And even the ones of us who aren't, maybe you're like topped up on caffeine, which is just another drug that manipulates other receptors in the body, right? And cannabis is amazing because what it does is it enhances the neurosynaptic receptors that fire stronger, faster, and better after the lock and key, the CBD, the endocannabinoid, or the cannabinoids go in the endocannabinoid system. Lock and key, right? Gives you the bit, like I know some people are like, oh, it gives me anxiety, or it does this, or if you've ever smoked too much and you feel like you're gonna die. Anybody who smokes all the time knows that has happened to them. So it's like after I say that to people, I'm like, welcome to the club. You probably don't have to worry about feeling like that ever again, but if you do, at least you know you're not going to. So yeah, helps your brain fire faster and stronger, and it gives you the I don't know, a better way of seeing life. That's how I see it. I really do. It's like after I take my breaks, I always realize it too. It's like not just the physical aspects, not just the mental aspects, spiritual aspects, all of it. Because, cannabis was the first plant medicine that I like respected after the fact that I got over all that propaganda bullshit that's fed to us, right? First it's dare, and then it's like, don't do this, it's gonna ruin your life, and then it's like, oh, bad people do this, or and then it's like you start to see people, like-minded individuals that toke. For me, it was in high school, and then it was like, oh man, once I found out it can help my gut, it was like, that's it, sealed. The deal was sealed. The dance with Mother Cannabis began, but it wasn't until probably 3.5, 4 years later that I actually took things serious. That I actually began to see the mind, body, and spirit, and understand the endocannabinoid system and the central nervous system, and all the compartments of the brain. And you don't have to know all that. Nobody needs. And it's like there's no expectation for that knowledge to be absorbed. But on the journey of life, everyone absorbs their own aspects and learnings and teachings. And what's fun is when you start to embrace that and incorporate it into your life and let it change your life. That's the key. Don't get caught up in trying to repeat being the same old person just because you don't want people to think that you've changed. I love when people say, hey, you've changed. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's literally the only constant, as I fumble my last words here. It's the only constant in this universe is change. Because the now moment changes, always changes. And it's like, I'm going to do my best, you do your best to embrace the change. And just be the person I know and you can be. That's it. And God knows you can be, because He definitely loves you. And you are taken care of regardless of the situations and the crazy shit that goes down on this absolutely mind-blowing 3, 4 dimensions, 5-dimensional Earth realm that we are residing in, called Earth School. And as we take a last whiff of this, jeez, that's crazy, y'all. That's crazy. It's called terpenoids. Kids call them terps, terpenes. They're constituents of amino acids. Again, it never ends, y'all. It's just we'll keep going down these alleys, and we'll keep opening up these doors if you're down. As usual, we always get off topic, but we definitely hit on some kick-ass stuff in this episode of Gut Instincts podcast. And I'm just glad we did the protein thing and all that, because we'll talk more about that next time, and more about the gut. We'll just stay on this. We'll stay on this trend. We'll stay on this trend together. We'll learn together, and we'll develop. And I'll share with you what's going on in this journey, and yeah, and you keep supporting. Yes, what does that mean? I don't know. Clicking the play button or the download button, I think. Click the download button. You can go on. I mean, I guess you'd be on the website if you're hearing this. Unless you're on YouTube. I've done this before. Just go on the website, gutinstinctspodcast.com. Check it out. I just posted something kick-ass. Speaking of protein, you can go check out the link or the article that I posted. It's about my homemade probiotic plant protein powder. Say that 8 times, 9 times. Plant pro blah, 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 blah. I can't. Can you? Plant protein. All right. That's enough for me. Go on there and check it out if you're into that type of shit. It was really cool. It ended up being, I know you're like, dude, I just want to fucking leave. It ended up being pretty much like a wash when the numbers came down to it, and it's all posted on there. Very, very, very close. A little bit more expensive per ounce or per pound on the plant protein that was homemade. But the thing is when you're here's the catch, and here's why I don't think, like, I think that number is an illusion, because per pound you may be getting maybe more expensive, right? But you're getting in turn probably 4 times more, like fourfold. I don't want to say the protein, because again, I think actually the protein may have came out less. And then you're like, wait, what, RJ? It's less protein and it's more expensive? This doesn't make fucking sense. And I'm like, well, if it doesn't make sense, it probably doesn't make dollars. Listen, here's the deal. What I made is super clean, and I scoped out every single thing that I wanted, and I knew that my body agreed with hemp protein, pumpkin seed protein, hemp, pumpkin seed, pea protein, and I think that's it. Is there one more in there? Just go check out the article. And there's a bunch of probiotic in there as well, like billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of probiotics. So that's the, that's what you get for the price. And to me, again, that's the price difference is an illusion, because you're getting, like, 5-fold better in everything else. So yeah, just check out the article if you're into that type of stuff. And there's some other cool things that I got planned. Other than that, article and everything is going to come up soon for the book release party, which is going to be in September. So just, you'll see more of that coming soon. I'll set up a link once the book stuff is ready to rock here, probably the beginning of April, which is next month, which is in like a few weeks, which, like, it seems like it's far away, but all of a sudden I'm doing another podcast and I'm saying, oh yeah, it's all there. So thanks for hanging out with me today, y'all. Yo, this was awesome. It's been a snow day here in New England. That was a great episode. That's all I got. I plugged everything I wanted to plug. Follow me, CBD Healer, on Instagram. I switched my phone, so things might be a little bit different. But you know me. it's an art. You know, it's an art for me. That's what that shit is. It's an art form. So I hope you dig it. I hope you dig this episode. And that's it, man. That's all. I'm out. Have a awesome week.